The queen lived in a beautiful castle. She had a daughter whom she dreamed of. The child had black hair and snow-white skin. Therefore, they named her Snow White. The queen soon died. The king did not grieve for a long time. A year later, he brought a new queen to the palace. She was beautiful but angry. The woman brought a magic mirror with her. Every day she admired her reflection in him and asked him the same question: who is the most beautiful in the world? The mirror has always told only the truth. Therefore, it honestly praised the beauty of the queen, and the woman beamed with happiness. Snow White grew, and every year her beauty blossomed brighter. And now, once again, speaking to the mirror, the queen heard in response that now she is not the most beautiful in the world, but Snow White. The queen was not going to endure this in her own palace. She ordered her faithful servant to lead the princess into an impenetrable thicket and kill. But the servant could not, even for the sake of the queen, kill the sweet girl. He brought the princess into a dark forest and let her go. And he himself returned to the castle and told the queen that he had followed her order. For a long time, the princess wandered through the forest. Along the way she was helped by all kinds of forest inhabitants. Snow White was very kind to them, and therefore they became strong friends. In the evening, the princess accidentally stumbled upon a small house. She went into it and saw that there was no one in the house. The table was set for 7 people, and there were 7 cots in the bedroom. And everything in this house was very small. Therefore, Snow White realized that 7 little people live here. After a long and difficult journey, she lay down on one of the beds and fell fast asleep. The 7 dwarfs returned home late at night. They were greatly surprised by the appearance of an unexpected guest. Sleeping Snow White was so charming that the dwarves decided to let her sleep, and did not wake her. Morning has come. Snow White woke up, saw the 7 dwarfs, and was scared. But they were affectionate with her, and the girl told about her misfortune. They immediately liked Snow White, and the dwarfs invited her to stay with them. Moreover, she agreed to take care of the house, cooking, washing and cleaning. Every morning the gnomes went to the mountains to mine gold and precious stones and returned late at night. Leaving for work, they warned Snow White to be afraid of the evil stepmother and not open the door to strangers. At this time, the queen, as usual, went to the secret room to talk to the magic mirror. But the mirror suddenly said that she was not the most beautiful in the world, but Snow White. That the princess is still alive, and lives with the gnomes in the house. The queen became very angry, and decided to deal with Snow White herself. She went to a secret room, and cooked a poisonous venomous apple there. It was very beautiful on the outside, but if someone ate even a piece, he would certainly die. When the apple was ready, the queen changed into an old merchant, and came to the house of the dwarfs. Seeing the sweet old woman, Snow White felt sorry for her. She did not suspect anything, and left the house. The old woman treated the girl to a ripe apple and said that if she eats this apple, she will remain young and beautiful forever. Snow White believed her, and as soon as she bit the apple, she fell down dead and stopped breathing. The contented queen went to the palace. In the evening, the dwarves returned from work and saw Snow White lying on the ground. She was not breathing. They sobbed so loudly and lamented that their cry was heard by the handsome prince, who was hunting in the forest nearby. It became interesting to him what kind of howl arose that scared away all the animals. And when the prince found the house of the dwarfs, he saw Snow White. She was so beautiful that the young prince immediately fell in love with her. He persuaded the dwarves to take her with him to the castle, because there he has doctors who can cure Snow White. The dwarfs allowed it. Then the prince ordered his servants to carry the princess on their shoulders. And when they were carrying her, it happened that the servants stumbled over some bush, and from the concussion a piece of a poisonous apple fell out of Snow White's mouth, and she woke up. Seeing the young prince, the girl also fell in love with him and agreed to marry him. They also invited their wicked stepmother to the wedding. Out of anger that Snow White is still alive, and that now a long and happy life awaits her, the queen broke the magic mirror and never looked at it again. Once upon a time, there was a king who had 12 beautiful daughters. They all lived together in a large and beautiful room. The king was very fond of princesses and raised them in severity. When the daughters went to bed, he closed their door with a key. But every morning something strange happened. When the princesses left the room, their shoes were so ruined as if they had been dancing all night long. The king had to buy new shoes for his daughters every day. No one could solve the riddle of the princesses. Once the king promised to marry one of his daughters if someone would solve the mystery of the shoes. In addition, the winner will become the king's heir. But the daredevil has only 3 days and 3 nights for this, otherwise he will be executed. Many young men of the kingdom, as well as foreign princes, came to try their luck. Day and night they guarded the doors of the 12 princesses' bedroom. But none of them could solve this riddle. And so, another young man decided to try his luck. On the way to the palace, he met an old grandmother.
Hello.
She was very hungry and asked for a piece of bread. The young man gave the old woman all his food. Grandmother was very happy because no one had ever been so kind to her. As a token of gratitude, she presented the young man with a magic cloak that made the one who wears it invisible.
Cool.
In addition, the old woman ordered not to drink anything that the princesses would give. The young man thanked her and went to the castle. When the young man arrived, the king greeted him with joy and led him to the princess's room. The young man began to guard their door. Towards evening, the older sister offered him a glass of wine. The boy on the way was very hungry and thirsty. He forgot about the words of the old grandmother and drank from the glass without hesitation. Soon he felt sleepy and fell asleep. The young man slept all night, and when he woke up it was already morning. He realized that the princess had put sleeping pills in his glass. And then the young man remembered the words of the old woman. Towards evening, the youngest sister offered him a glass of wine. But this time he was careful. The young man took the glass and thanked the princess. When she left, he poured the wine into a vase nearby. When night fell, the young man put on his magic cloak and immediately became invisible. He quietly walked into the princess room and saw that all the princesses were wearing their best ball gowns. Then they went to the wall and began to listen if the young man was sleeping. The young man played along with them and began to snore softly. When the girls were convinced that he was asleep, the older sister moved her bed. At the same place, a secret entrance opened, and the princesses began to descend into it. The young man followed them. When the steps ended, they found themselves in an amazing forest. The leaves on the trees were pure gold. The young man took one twig with him and continued to follow the princesses. After a long journey, they stopped by the lake. There the girls were already waiting for 12 handsome princes in their boats. When the princesses boarded their boats, the invisible youth also jumped into one of them. The princes transported them across the river, and they ended up at a huge, beautiful castle. Beautiful music sounded from it. Entering the castle, the princesses began to dance. They danced relentlessly all night long. Of course, this made their shoes unusable. In the morning, the princesses sailed on boats back to the side of the house. They walked through the woods again, and up the long stairs to their room. The young man was happy that he had solved the riddle of the shoes of the 12 princesses. Soon the king appeared to the young man. The young man told him everything he saw.
No.
The king at first did not believe him, but he showed a golden twig from a magic tree. The king realized that the young man was telling the truth and kept his promise. He allowed the young man to marry any of the 12 princesses. The young man chose the youngest sister because they fell in love at first sight. After some time, the young man and the young princess got married. And they lived happily ever after.